All right, guys, here we go. Round three. Coming hot off those last two matches, right? If you've seen those, if you haven't seen those, go check them out. Pause this, come back to it later. You're going to want to see those first two. But yeah, lag for the break here. And I'm going to get the first break, which always feels good. Sticking with the second ball break, that's what has worked so far. But coming hot off those last two, round three, man, the scratching on the break, it's really killing us today. That's definitely been a glaring weakness in the game. But I knew this guy. We had never met, but we had texted a little bit. We thought about putting a team together. So we had chatted a bit, but had never met. And strong Fargo, right? Like 632, dude can play. And at that level, you know, sometimes it just kind of goes in streaks to see who's feeling good, who's not feeling good. And the posture and the confidence thing is going to come into play. So I want to come out of the gate strong. I want to make a good showing. Unfortunately, that scratch on the break doesn't show well. Giving up ball in hand, even in the kitchen, is a pretty tough position. And luckily, what we're seeing here is a little bit of a shaky start. I think he might have wanted to shape the 4, or maybe end up with a 6. Still gets a nice run on the 1 ball down the rail, moving stuff around a little bit, rearranging the furniture. But he's still looking okay. 5 goes, the 3 and the 2 down here, they both go. So really what we're just looking at for him, I think, is the key ball. Comes to look at the 5, kind of planning a path from that to the next shot. So yeah, trying to take this first game. It's really good for momentum, and a lot of commentators, a lot of billiards commentators will talk about the odds of the person who takes that first game being much higher for them to win, which I'd love to see actual statistics on that if there are any actual stats on it. It makes sense to me that the person who wins that first game would get that momentum, be able to carry that a little better. And obviously getting a game on the string, you've got a leg up on your opponent. In a handicap format, it's sort of maybe not a given in the same way. So he got good on the 5, and option to take the 4 and then sort of play through these 3 for key balls to get on the 8. The 4 looks pretty good to get on the 8. So he could take the 2 and shape the 3 in the side. Yeah, I think he was just checking to make sure that the 8 goes down here, which it does. Got a good line on this. You can play the 2 or the 3 here, but I think the 2 is a little more natural to get on the 3. Cheats the pocket a little bit, plays it thick into the left-hand side of the pocket as we're looking at it. It's really natural shape on the 3, minimal cue ball movement. So you can tell he's feeling pretty good here. Bit of a miscalculation here, though. Did not need to be jacked up over that ball. So maybe rushed it a little bit. I think just pace is off. Yeah, a bit of a shake of the head. So you can tell really no need to be jacked up over that ball. You could either have drawn back or floated through a little bit off the 3. Looking a little shaky. Dogged it. Yeah, that's a tough one. A little friendly nudge from the 4 ball, I think, helped out my 15. So, tough one. I mean, that could have been an out and would have been a really good first game for him to have taken that out of my hands after scratching on the break. But lets me back at it, and I've got some options here to open up. 13 ball obviously looks nicest. You can float down below the 9 and the 14 here to get shape on either of those. But what I look at is coming back up, take care of the 11 because it's out in the center of the table. And then off the 11, you can play up for the 15 or back over for the 14 and 9. You just want to kind of glide through this one. That's fine. Just use the 1 rail. Some players will bring that second rail in. You'd have to apply some spin to get there. I remember getting reasonably straight on the 11. So just a speed shot to roll through between the 4 and the 8. And your window is pretty wide here. So staying down table is going to make sense to come straight through the 11. First game of this match, just trying to settle in a little bit. Jabbed at that one a little bit. You can tell I let up a bit on the stroke. Luckily, I do end up with enough of the 15 to cut it in. That could have been bad. If you catch an edge on that 4-ball and don't end up with a proper cut on the 15, that would have been frustrating. Probably would have had to settle for a severe cut on the 10. But we're okay here. Punch that one in. I knew it was going to drive me into the long rail, so I wanted to punch out enough to be able to manipulate the cue ball off the 10. Natural angle here is going to be to dive into the rail and come back down for the 9 and the 14. You don't have to put any spin on this. You don't want to try to spin it in or rely on spin to make it. You can just dive through with a high ball. Yep, just a straight high ball there. And I get clean and straight on the 14, which is fine. You want to cheat this a little bit, kind of slide it in off the rail, and I know that I want to draw back for the 9 ball. You don't want to be straight on the 9 ball. You do need a backward cut on the 9 to drift over for the 8. So I was cueing well. It's interesting. I've looked at this one a couple times. I think I may not have executed as low as I was aiming. The stroke looked okay, and I knew that I wanted to sort of come low outside to pull up a little bit. So I've got more of a cut on the 9 than I would have liked. Still very makeable ball, and it sends you in the right direction. So at this point, it's a cut and speed control. So just play a clean cut. Perfect. Center pocket there. And speed was fine, maybe let it out a little bit, but you want to guarantee making that ball. So I'm picking up pace, feeling good, feeling aggressive. Same kind of theme as those last 2 games. And there it goes. My banner blocked the pocket a little bit, but you can see it went down. Do the YouTube stuff if you haven't done it. Helps out a lot. Glad you guys are here. It's fun hanging out, doing the commentary and talking through these matches. Much more solid second ball break there. If anything, I pulled back a bit too much. So that's looking good, though. It spread out really well. So I ended up pocketing a stripe, I believe. Yep. Bit of a backwards cut on the 9 to open up. So you come through here. You can either try to play between the 5 and the 11, or you could pull back a bit more off the 9. Don't really want to touch on the 8 ball. Dangerously close to that side pocket. You could theoretically come into the 13 thin. You're going to turn the cue ball loose a little bit. So I do believe I go for the 9 ball. Trying to shape the 11 or the 12. So I'm going to play into here and maybe use one of those balls as a blocker. Clean back cut here on the 9. Good speed, good angle. Came out a bit too far. I did have the 12 ball to back me up, which is nice. So I can play the 12 to the 11. I come over to look at the 14. I'm also shaping up to see if I would need to make the 11 from down table. Don't really like that. I don't recommend that. But as with most pattern play, you want your current shot to take you towards the next ball. You don't want to have to work against that. A lot of that comes out of just giving yourself the proper angle. So I didn't really like the angle that I had to get on the 11. So drifting down for the 15 here, the play was going to be to get up to the 14 in the side, getting reasonably straight on it so that you can roll through for the 11. Pattern's starting to come together, but I think my angle was such that I wasn't going to be able to get deep enough behind the 2 to get good on the 14 in the side. You can manipulate this a little bit, kind of cheat the pocket or spin it in. But yeah, I was not able to get into enough of that ball to get high up on the 14 to play it in the side. I knew I had the corner as a backup, but didn't get enough out of it. So I get behind this 14 ball and I start to line up. This goes a little deceptive on the camera, but this goes. I know the cue ball is going to come off the rail. Depending on how you cut the 14 into the pocket, you want to be able to come back around here with a smooth power draw stroke. So I'm cueing, it's a little awkward cueing off the rail, but it's looking smooth. Fired that one in. good draw stroke too, but the problem was that it came off the rail. Big sigh for me. Came off the rail full on into the 2 ball. The reason for that, and having looked back at it, is I cheated the pocket too much. I didn't come center pocket, which maybe honestly it might have been that part of the pocket was blocked by the 5. It's hard to tell, but I needed to come fuller into the pocket to curve around the 2 with that draw stroke. 2 ball ended up taking most of the energy of the cue ball there, unfortunately. So now I'm left with a rail first on the 11. And my little technique for this, I'm sure you know, or many of you would have seen this before, but you take a straight line from the cut angle of the ball onto your cue stick, pull that back so that it's off the table, that point to the rail, straight to the cue ball, and then you should be able to hit into the rail. Usually a little running English will help here. Slower speed to let that spin open up. Oh, super close. I'm disappointed at that one. It's funny though, because that's not an easy shot, man. Like that's, you know, those are tough to gauge. I had a good plan. The plan was solid. But the issue, I think, looking back on it now, I think the issue was that I just hit it too firm. I didn't let the speed open it up enough. Giving up ball in hand after doing a bunch of work, just trying to get out. That's how it goes though, right? So let's see. Let's see if he can get out here. He's got some work to do. A bit of a cluster by the side pocket. I'm going to try to clean that up early. 5's looking like a nice key ball. A lot of players would be tempted to clear the cluster by the side pocket with ball in hand. 3 to the 6 to the 4 kind of thing. But he starts down table. He's looking at where he wants to be. Play the 7 ball and float back up for the 3. Or hold it a little bit for the 4. Lots of options. Every ball's got a pocket, right? The 6 is the only one that's kind of blocked right now. So yeah, decided to sort of float up. Might be straight enough on the 3 that he could just play a stop shot. Some players might be tempted to bust these up. You really don't have to. You don't have to play into these balls if you don't want to. Chose to go into them, which is fine. You can play the 6 or the 1. Still plenty of options. A nice open table. 5 still looking like the key ball. We play the 4. Yeah, 4, 6, 1, 5, something like that. It's a good practice there. Go get behind the 1 ball, see where you want to be. So simple stop shot on the 4 there. Basically a stop shot here on the 1. Snipped it back a little bit. And you can punch out here. Did a little bit of an angle on the 5. That's what he comes to look at. Looking pretty steady. Goes and looks at the back of the 5 ball. We have a pretty similar pre-shot routine. A little bit of a skid on that 5 ball, but it goes. Cooperates for him. Good shape on the 8. Balls it in the side. Game 2. Cut right to the break. Game 3. It's tough when you're in this format, playing a good player. A dry break or a scratch on the break can be a death sentence, right? You don't want to be giving that away. Hit a good break shot. I mean, it looked good. So I've got my work cut out for me here. Neither really has a nice opening shot. 7 goes in the side. 12 goes straight up table. So just kind of sizing this up. Start to look at the 12. I think I had a cut on the 14, but it's sort of an aggressive back cut. Turn the cue ball loose a little bit. You'd have to rely on maybe the 7 as a stopper. I don't remember liking that, so I go for the drift on this 12, run this up the rail, knowing that if I roll forwards, I'm going to end up with a 13 or the 15. Couple options there. Nice. Good confident stroke on that. You could certainly try to roll that in, but I wanted to hit it with some authority. So we're looking pretty good here. 13 sends us towards the... What is this? The 10 ball down here. You kind of float down. You want to take care of the 11 out in the center of the table. Pick a pocket for that. That works. Good speed. Good back cut on the 10. Gives us options. I think, honestly, coming in a little deeper, yeah, I think that's where I wanted to be here, to get above the 10 so that I could come back for the 11. Because 11 goes in this side, 11 goes in this corner. That's what I was looking at. Pick the right pockets for that ball. So yeah, I think the play here is get down table, give yourself the 9, 11, or 15, but 11's ideal. Good smooth, overplayed it, cheated the pocket, right? I came into the left-hand side of the pocket as we're looking at it on the video. Leaving the 11 ball up there is not great right now. I know where I want to be. The 9 can get me there. We would have to go 15, 14, 9 to the 11. And then shape on the 8 from the 11 is touchy too. So we're starting to shoot ourselves into a corner in this rack. Basically a stop shot on the 15. Got a little bit of an angle on the 14, float between the 9 and the 7. You just don't want to be glued to the 7 ball, having to stretch and shoot over something. Like that. Come on, man. Yeah. I think I rushed it a bit. Took that for granted. So it looks like, the video makes it look like I've got a lot of the cue ball available to me. But I don't. And it's a stretch. You'll see it. You'll see it as I cue down on this. I need to get my extension, and I'm still stretching. So those two layers of difficulty, the stretch and being jacked up over the 7 ball, really bad position. And to complicate it further, third dimension of complication here, I'm all but straight in on the 9. So all I can do is just pocket this ball and then left me with a long cut on the 11. Not really sure what I was looking at over there. Yeah, I don't know. Weird one. Just roll through this ball. Make a good hit. Give yourself a long shot on the 11. It's a stretch. I want to get that knee in the way. Come on, man. Oh, it hurts. It hurts to watch. That's so silly. I know it happens, right? Feels bad. That's a bad one. Just hit it really bad. I had enough of it available to me. Probably just getting a bridge, right? You just solve that with a bridge, and you can strike down on it a bit more. Give up ball in hand again. Needed this game. The pattern was okay, right? There's certainly some times we're over-rolling things a little bit in this game. The pattern was looking okay. Definitely would have had some work to do between the 11 and the 8, but you do not need to be giving up those ball in hands in this kind of game. Not against a good player. Not against anybody, really, but man. So he's got some work to do. Everything's got a pocket, but you want to pick a good pattern, commit to it. So he decides to take care of the 2-7 first, which is sensible. 2 takes you to the 4, 4 to the 6. I'll roll through that. I like his style in the sense that it seems like he takes some time to come up with a pattern and then commits to it. Bit of a two-way here, just kind of should have the 3, take stop shot on that. but you don't want to get behind you don't want to be over here, right, for the 1-5. Interesting choice. I think it worked out though. Cut on the 6 and the 5 is still available, and now it's just a matter of solving the 1. Pick a pocket for the 1 ball. So play the 6 and drift down, or play the 5. I kind of like the 5. I'm going to stay up here. 6 to the 1 after. 6 in the side, 1 in the same corner as the 5. Ooh boy. I think he was trying to shape the 6. Maybe caught a roll. Got good on the 1 ball instead. Interesting. Was playing for the 6 in the side. Ooh yeah, some frustration there. I would feel that too. Run the 6 down the rail. Just kind of get below the 8. Oh, he shaved the 9. We got a chance back. Can you believe that? We got another chance in this rack. Giving up ball in hand, open table. Yeah, it just it kind of got away from him there. So on camera, this 9 looks very cuttable, and indeed, even at the table, it was very cuttable. I had some deliberation here about I don't want to open up the scratch. There is a natural scratch path off the 9 ball. You can mitigate that with spin and or speed. There's not a lot of room to cheat this pocket. I don't like the cuts on the 11 ball anywhere from where the cue ball is right now. So you got to take the cut on the 9. Simple safety option, I think, would be to sort of brush the 9 and leave the cue ball behind it. It's not a strong play. I remember not feeling comfortable with the cut, whether it was just the shape on the 11 or the speed, potential scratch. So I end up playing, the intention was to play a simple safety and leave him on the far side of the 6 without a cut available. This was just a weak play, guys. Just a bad decision and poor execution on top of it. It's really unfortunate to let your opponent back to the table with a very makeable cut shot. And plenty of room for the cue ball to find a way to get behind the 8. Just silly. Just a really bad decision and poor execution on top of it. So, bad one. 2 in this rack, right? Missing that 9 ball, giving up ball in hand on the 9. Just miscuing. And making a bad decision, a defensive decision, choosing to duck in this case instead of go aggressive, make that 9 ball, find shape on the 11. Yeah. So a lot to learn from that. Thought about that one a lot after the match. This is good though. He, really took his time, really bared down. Knew the scratch was on, but controlled his speed. Second ball break, but doesn't cooperate. And kind of safe break. Puts me back behind the 4. Not super spread out. No open shots. You got to make contact with something, make sure that it's a good hit, but there's nothing available right now. So can you get safe again? Can you put your opponent back in some kind of bad position? Sort of the only option you've got. I remember thinking about coming thin off the 4. Back down on that bottom short rail. Let's see what I go with. It's tough because at this point, 2 bad mistakes in that last game, it feels like the momentum's starting to shift. After a strong first game, you gotta keep your head down, right? There are ways to play through that. So I sight this up like kind of pretty thin off the 4 and just trying to leave them up table, keep things blocked, which worked out okay. I didn't sell out the 12 or the 2 up here, which would have been the easiest to go for, but the 11 is still very cuttable on the side and it sends you into the pack. So you can sort of spread things out a little bit that way, which he does. Maybe ends up with a cut on the 12. Caught a bit of a roll though, I think, because going into the pack like that without much more pace did send the 8 ball moving. That might have been part of the consideration for not adding any more speed. Tries to bust him up again and comes a few rails to get back into it. Now he's down below it. He does have a cut shot on the 14. He looks at the 9. From here, it doesn't look like the 9 goes. Maybe it does, but the 14 definitely goes here. You can kind of go smooth through the 14 roll up table. Give yourself the 9 or the 14. Maybe the 9 does go. Yeah, he's queuing it. Oh, it doesn't go if you do that. Dang. Yeah, frustrated there too. That's the thing with these momentum shifts. You don't want to give that back. When you've got those open shots, you got to capitalize. You got to punish your opponent. Tough. Got a chance here, guys. Got a chance to tie it up. Short race, race to 4. Make this 2-2 and come with a good break shot next. See if we can clear these out. Pretty flat on the 2 ball. 2's a good way to open up. You could try to draw back off the 2. Oops, bad line. You could try to draw back off the 2 to get shape on the 1 ball here, but the window's pretty thin between the 6 and the 15. So ideally, you leave yourself on the 3, an angle on the 3, and then you can play different windows off the 3. 3 can take you, yeah, back over here towards the 4 ball. You can float in for the 1 to the 7, something like that. Looking at it now, I like the 3-1-7. We're playing for the 4, though. We jaw that ball? Man. You can see it. You can see it, the swing. Maybe just tried to get too much out of that cue ball. So it's not, I mean, it's not a given. Leaving the 3 in the pocket's pretty rough. He's got an open shot on the 9. 13, hard to tell if the 13 would go in rail first off the 3. That would be a nice way to open the pocket. He's sizing up the 14. I think the idea would be to hit the 14 really full into the 3. But from here, I don't think that's possible. Yeah, he used like sort of drag on that to see if he could spin the 14 through. I remember him walking away from the table, kind of shaking his head like it was a silly decision. From there, yeah, when you have a cut shot, it has to be super, super straight on that first ball to impart the forward spin, the top spin on that to roll through. Back at the table, we got another chance. We are getting chances in this game. We just got to capitalize, man. That's the thing. So 4 can take us to the 5 or the 6. Played a good solid stroke on that. We're kind of deep on the 6 ball, so may not love that right now. I go to look at it. But I think the idea would be clean the 5 and float back down for the 6 ball after. I go and get behind the 5 ball and take a look at it. This should be a nice smooth stroke. You can go 1 or 2 rails here. Sometimes using that, coming into that second rail feels a little better. Maybe a touch of inside to straighten it out. But you missed that ball, man? So many chances. We're getting so many chances in this game. I've looked at that shot too. I feel like I lined up on it well. I feel like I executed well. There might have been some skid involved. I don't want to make that excuse at all. I missed that ball. Like I should have made that one, but it did look like it might have caught a little bit of skid. So it's possible that that was in there throwing me off, but you got to just make that ball. Really no excuse there. So at this point, we got a ton of innings into this game. He should just win this one. You know, at a certain point, it's like, who wants this? Who wants to win this game? It'll be a tough one to give this away. It'll put him on the hill. But we've had plenty of chances. So 15 goes in, grazes the 1, but That's probably part of the calculus there. Did he get on the 13? It would be nice to take care of that now. I might leave it for shape. Yeah, looking at the 13. Roll through it. That'll work. I might have liked to get a little deeper on that, but he's fine. Float back up over to the long rail. Nope, he wanted to go 9. That will also work. Using this ball as the key ball makes a lot of sense because it'll guarantee you're going to be below the 8. Good way to come in 2 rails there. Nudge that 6 ball. He almost put himself behind the 6. All that room on the table and could have been behind the 6. So 2 options for the 8. Kind of run this down. Play this nice and smooth in the corner. He's on the hill now. So many chances in that last game. We just were not capitalizing. Break worked out a little better this time. Had some help from a sort of wild ball that kicked him and kept him sort of center table. So made a stripe. 9 takes you to the 13. Got to solve this cluster down here, right? Like you want to do something about that early on. Starts with the 11. We're going to maybe float down. That's fine. I think maybe using this ball for the breakout. 10 takes you down. I think that's the 14 by the 7. So come off the 12. Bounce back out. Nice. That should work. Position window back here is pretty wide. Being good on this ball to send him down into the pack. He's got an angle, not a lot of angle to work with. Maybe it's flatter than I think. Might be able to manipulate this enough to go down for the breakout. Find out. You don't want to hit it too hard though, right? Because sending the 7 towards the 8 is risky. He might not be able to. And at the 9 and 13 to try to get over there. You got to solve that problem. You could try to play shape for a bank shot too on the 14. Risky. It's not in a great position for a natural bank. Yeah, he was on the wrong side of that ball on the side, so just kind of rolls through, gets back out close to center table. 9 can float back around the 13 or straight through the 9 into here to come into the 13 and send the cue ball into the problem from there. You're running out of shots. Kind of leaving his problem till last, which we all know you want to get to it early, but there weren't a ton of chances to get to it earlier. Had to get good on that ball on the side. I think just roll through this 9, right? Oh, he fired at it. He tried to... Nice, he did too. Kind of manipulated that angle on the 9 to curve back around, but shape's no good. 14 doesn't go past the 8. 13 goes, but it's a super thin cut here. Thin cut. Cue ball comes in off that 13 towards the 14. Pretty full into it. Or the 4 if you overcut it. Undercut it. And got a roll. Kicked in the 14. You got to look at the 13 too. Not a full look at it, but enough to swerve into it. Yeah. Silly. It goes that way sometimes. He was like friendly and apologetic about it. We were both laughing. But yeah, he doesn't want to take this for granted. I really like that about Palm's style. Didn't rush this one, right? I think sometimes you let the sort of rush of getting that roll. Yep, spun that one in. And he gets over there, and it's, it's close enough to where I was like, hey, you're good, man. So that was it. He beat me. And as I mentioned, at this point in the tournament, it was deep enough that I did not have that backup. After the second round, you don't get another chance. So this knocked me out of the tournament. I have to say, overall, just Grand Prix as a whole, this tournament experience, I got a lot out of this. Those first 2 rounds were really showing for me. I felt super strong. I felt confident. I felt like I was being impressive, and that's nice. Like, those are, obviously really good feelings. But my fundamentals were solid. Again, if you haven't seen those 2 videos, I do recommend it. It's a good showcase of me playing really well. This match is also really interesting, so I got a lot out of this, even though it's a loss, maybe especially because it's a loss. There's just so much to learn. I was not capitalizing on my opponent's mistakes. I made a silly decision with that 9-ball to not play aggressive, and I know better, right? It's one of those things, like, I've got the experience, I know what to do, and I just made a silly decision in the moment. So lots to learn from this, lots that I'm just putting in the bank and taking with me moving forward, and really excited about getting back in a tournament again so that I can start to put these lessons in practice. So thanks for being here. Thanks for coming along for the Grand Prix journey. I hope you enjoyed this little series. There will be plenty more tournaments to come, just kind of ramping up for however the summer goes. So yeah, thanks again, and I will see you guys soon.